Boker Tov, Girin. Good, I heard it. Boker Tov, right? If I say Ma Shlomchem, how will you respond? Tov, and if you're going to be extra polite, you'll say Tov, Todah, right? Everyone, Tov, Todah. All right? So as we practice that, let's try to get a little bit faster response time there. You'll also find that will help your vocabulary because it means you won't ever forget Tov nor Todah. You won't forget Shalom, and you won't forget Ma Shlomka, Ma Shlomkem. I say Ma Shlomkem because it's a group of men. I'd say Ma Shlomka if I'm speaking only to Greg, for example. And if you're speaking to a woman, what do you say in how are you? Ma Shlomek. Ma Shlomek. All right? All right. Now, I just want to go over a few things with you, and the first thing I want to do is go over the vocabulary, reading the vocabulary and pronouncing it for chapters 4 and 5, because your quiz a week from today, your vocab quiz number 3, a week from today, will be over 2 chapters, chapters 4 and 5 vocabulary. 4 and 5 vocabulary. So we're going to crank it up a little bit here. All right, so if you'll turn to page 41 at the end of chapter 4, let's take a look at the vocabulary and read through it. Okay, after I read each of the Hebrew words, please pronounce it after me, okay? So I'll start at the upper right-hand corner. We'll go from right to left across the top and then go down the second row and across. Okay, Edom. Edom. That means Edom. Oz. Oz. Then. Elot. Elot. It also appears as Elat. Everyone? Elat. Okay, and that means Elat, which is a city on the tip of the eastern branch of the Red Sea, at the top tip of the Gulf of Aqaba. Okay, the second word down on the right-hand column, El. El. Meaning unto, to, or toward. It has a number of different meanings by context. Yam. Yam. Don't confuse that with Yom. Yom is what? Day. Yam is sea, S-E-A, like the ocean. La. La is a preposition. It will never be found alone the way it's written right here. It's always attached to a word. It's always attached to a word. It can mean to, for, against. It can mean all kinds of things. There's about 17 different possible translations for this preposition. Be determined by context. I've given you just the first 2 of them here, 2 and 4. Back to the beginning of the third row, al. Al. Notice it's not el, it's al. El is to or unto. Al is upon, above, on, or against. Okay? Then etzion geber. Etzion geber. Okay, that's just a proper name, Etzion geber. And then safa. Safa. Safa has all kinds of meanings. It can mean the lip on the mouth. It can mean the border or edge of a table. It can mean a shore of an ocean or a lake or a river, the bank of a river, or the rim of something. So safa has all kinds of usages. We use lip in the same way in English. We'll say he pushed it to the lip of the table or the edge of the table. So there's different ways of using that. Depends on what background you're from too in the United States. There's some dialects in the United States that don't use lip that way. Shlomo. Shlomo. That's Solomon. Shemuel. Shemuel. That's Samuel. Shamer. Shamer. That means he kept. Please add in there watched as well. He kept or he watched. Kept or watched. So make certain you've added watched in there if you don't have it. Then the next line, Melech. Melech. That's king. Ruach. Ruach. We had that before, pronouncing it as a single syllable. Remember, it's a PATHACH FURTIVE under the guttural at the end. Means spirit with a little s, spirit with a capital S, or wind. Shamah. Shamah. Means he heard, he listened, and it can also mean he obeyed. He obeyed. In Genesis chapter 2, where you have Adam listening to his wife. He listens to his wife, meaning he obeyed his wife. And when God questions him and asks him what did he do, the idea is he obeyed his wife rather than God. He listened to his wife. So listen is often used in the sense of obey. And here again, you have to go by context to check that out. Okay, the last row there, the bottom right, gavoach. Gavoach. Don't go too far with the ch at the end. It's not a chayth. It's just a hay with a mapik in it. Gavoach. Gavoach. Means high.
Question?
Yes?
Why is that enunciated on the second syllable in that case?
Because the second syllable is the only syllable that you can emphasize. You're emphasizing the last syllable because the pathic under the hay is a pathic furtive.
There's a pathic
Half vowel.
Not a separate syllable.
Right. Pathic furtive is a half vowel. And that's why we pronounce it ahead of the sound of the hay. All right? Diber.
Diber.
He spoke or he commanded. Katal.
Katal.
He killed. All right, let's go to the back of the next chapter, chapter 5. And let's go over the vocabulary here. Upper right-hand corner, Yareh.
Yareh.
Means he feared. Chokmah.
Chokmah.
That means wisdom. Notice the chok, oh. It's a kametz chatuf. The accented syllable is the last syllable, ma. So it's a closed, unaccented syllable. So it's the kametz hatuf, chokmah. All right, everyone again, chokmah. And be certain you put the accent on the last syllable. Okay, the last word on the top row, shakan.
Shakan.
Means he dwelt. The second row, kol.
Kol.
Voice or sound. Lev and levav.
Lev, levav.
That's heart. Layla.
Layla.
That's night. Midbar.
Midbar.
That's wilderness. Kokav.
Kokav.
Star. Kohen.
Kohen.
Priest. Ra'ah.
Ra'ah.
He saw. Nefesh.
Nefesh.
Breath, life, or soul. Pari.
Pari.
That's fruit. It has a schwa under the pay there. Sometimes that can get confused with pointings underneath, like the accent on Eved. All right. Nathan.
Nathan.
He gave. It has many other meanings too, but that's the basic one to remember. He gave. Am.
Am.
That's people. Eved.
Eved.
Servant. Kara.
Kara.
Kara means he called, he summoned, or he read. Allah.
Allah.
He ascended, he went up, he arose. Nasa.
Nasa.
He lifted up, he carried. The last row, Ir.
Ir.
That's the word for city. It is always a feminine noun. It's always a feminine noun. Ayin.
Ayin.
Means eye. That's the same thing as the letter ayin. Means eye, means a spring as well, the eye of the earth. The idea is as the eye waters, so a spring is the earth watering, like an eye. And so it has the idea of spring, ayin. Asa.
Asa.
He did or he made. All right. I trust that's some help to you to go over those. We'll go over them again on Thursday so that you have a chance to hear them one more time. Please, as you study, pronounce the words as you're studying. Say them out loud. Get used to the sounds. Otherwise, and make certain you have the sounds correctly. Make certain your pathach is an a sound. Make certain your segol is an e sound. And if you do that, watch the accents as well. It'll help you distinguish between one word and another that you'll look at, and initially you look at and say, well, they're the same word, or you'll get them confused. Keep L and al separately. Al is above, L is unto. And those type of things just have to work at and memorize and see what you can do. Pull out exercise number 4. You were to go through these to indicate whether each of the following statements is true or false by circling either true or false. You were also supposed to mark them if it was false, to correct it, edit it to where it then gives the correct statement. The first one, when two schwas occur back to back in the middle of a word, the first is always vocal and the second is always silent. True or false? False. What do we do? How do we change it? You reverse the two, right? The first is always silent and the second is always vocal. Notice it's the same as the example. So if you missed it, you weren't reading the example. All right? That's a freebie. Gave that one away. Yes, Eric?
But if a student forgot to cross them out and write in
That's half off.
for every single one
For every single one. It's half off of every one because that's part of the assignment. Give the correct answer or edit the sentence to make it read correctly. For every one that is false, it'll be half off. Okay? Number 2, the schwa is not a regular vowel. True or false? True. Number 3, when two schwas occur back to back at the end of a word, the first is silent and the second is vocal. True or false? False. How do we change to make it true? The second is also silent. The second is also silent. Okay, you don't have to have also there. You just have to cross out vocal and put in silent. Number 4, a schwa which follows a full letter vowel is usually silent. True or false? False. Usually what? Vocal. Number 5, a schwa placed, and by the way, you could have changed that to say a schwa which follows a closed syllable. Cross out a full letter vowel and put a closed syllable. So there are other options there. Okay? Instead of changing the silent, you could have changed the full letter vowel. Number 5, a schwa placed under a letter with a dogish forte is vocal. True or false?
It's a trick question.
It's a trick question. A dogish forte is what kind of dogish? Doubling dogish. When you have a doubling dogish in a letter, the schwa under it is vocal. All right? Now, when you double the letter, the first of those two letters, and that's give an example. And I'll use this as an example rather than to use this as an example because the begad kafath confusion. But if we say that the taith has the doubling dogish in it, actually that doesn't really help. We need to have a, let me get to that eraser here. We have to have a schwa under it. So I've got to change this to this. All right? So if we have kit talu, it's kitalu. It's a vocal schwa. Now when you double the consonant, it's as though you had this type of situation with a silent schwa under it and then a vocal schwa. But this schwa, as you see it there, you have to pronounce that as vocal. All right? So the answer to it is vocal. John?
Is it wrong to put, is it okay to put it's false and then change it is both silent and vocal?
If you change to silent and vocal, I'll allow it. But remember that this is not really here. This is artificial. This is explanatory. All you really have here is one schwa that you see it. I'll allow it, but technically you just should answer it's vocal. John?
Well, it does say on page 37, schwa placed under the dagesh forte is both silent and vocal.
Okay.
That's the wording.
I'll allow it. And I'll have to do it because that's the way we've got it worded. All right? And it's because of the fact you double the letter, but it's not really there. All you really have there is the vocal. Okay? Any others? I'll allow both. All right, let's go to the next one. The vowels are always pronounced after the consonant with which they are placed. True or false? Okay, what's false about it? Normally pronounced after the consonant with which they are placed. What's the exception? The furtive PATHACH, the PATHACH furtive. All right? All right, words always begin with a consonant and not with a vowel. True or false? How can a word begin with a vowel?
Full letter vowel.
The SHEWA is the only one. Okay, the SHEWA is the only one. It can't begin with a holum. Nothing ever begins with a holum wow. It can't begin with a comet's hey, because comets has to go under something. And if you have an aleph there, the aleph is the consonant, like in Elohim or in Akal. The only time is the SHEWA. Words normally begin with a consonant and not with a vowel. Anyone have anything different there? Yes, it's false. Okay, number 8. The kaf sophite always takes a vocal schwa when it stands vowelless. True or false? False. It takes a silent schwa. Number 9. Schwas which begin syllables are vocal. Schwas which close syllables are silent. True or false? True. Number 10. The gutturals and resh require a composite schwa where other letters would only require a simple schwa. True or false? Okay, now there's 2 possible answers. You could answer true, but those who answered false, how did you change it? Cross out the resh. Okay. Any others? You could also say the gutturals and resh sometimes require a composite schwa where other letters would only require a simple schwa. Because there are exceptions, like the resh, and there will be another exception we'll look at later. Okay, so there are 2 possible answers to that one. I'll accept both. And there's 2 possible ways to correct if you answered false. All right, page 14. B, circle all silent schwas in the following words. Scott Basolo, first word on the right. Any silent schwas?
No.
James, any silent schwas in the first word?
Under the first cove.
Under the first cove, correct. Under the first cove. All right. And Dennis, how about the second word? Any silent schwas?
None of the resh, the top.
Okay, the only 2 schwas are in it. Both are silent. Okay. The third word, Roger, any silent schwas? Okay, the one under the sheen. 2 schwas in a row. The first one is silent in the middle of a word. Okay, Jan, the fourth word, any silent schwas?
No.
Okay, you could have circled the schwa under the meme for the same reason we were talking about this up here. If you don't have it circled, that's fine. If you do have it circled, I understand also, because it can be both. All right? The fifth word, George?
Under the kaf.
Under the kaf sophite, in the kaf sophite is a silent schwa. In the bosom of the kaf sophite is a silent schwa. Okay, Jeremiah, the next to last word?
Under the pay.
Under the pay. All right. Okay, Mike, the last one? There is no silent schwa in the last word. Okay, C, circle all vocal schwas. All right, Tom, first word. Any vocal schwas?
Under the pay.
Under the pay, because it follows a hirik yod long vowel, full letter vowel. So the pay is a vocal schwa. It begins the next syllable. All right. Now, did anyone circle the very first one? You could circle that. It's a hatif, it's a half vowel, but it's still a compound schwa. It's compound schwa. So I will accept that. If you did not circle, I'll still accept it, because you could have been technical and said, well, you didn't say compound schwa, you said schwa. So either or are correct if you have the hatif segol under the aleph circled or not circled. Okay? All right. The second word, Kyle?
The yod.
Okay, the first consonant there, the yod with the schwa under it, is vocal. Okay? And Chad, third word?
No vocal schwas.
No vocal schwas. Two schwas at the end of the word are both silent. All right. And Kempis, the fourth word?
Under the towel?
Under the towel. The one under the sheen is silent. Okay. And Franz, the fifth word?
Under the yod.
Okay.
And the mem.
Okay, yod and mem, both. All right. Greg, the sixth word?
Under the sheen?
Under the sheen. It's vocal. Correct. And then Kenny, the last word?
Under the mem.
Under the noon. Vocal. Correct. Okay, divide into syllables. How did you divide Iraq, rack? Gus?
After the resh,
Going from left to right, you're speaking, or?
I'm going from, yeah.
Okay, why don't you say which letters they're between, it'll be clear.
Between the resh and the kof.
Okay, going from left to right, because remember we begin at the end of a word. Okay, we go at the end of the word. Okay, so,
And then from the other resh and kof, so the kof will be in between.
okay, there should only be one line. The only line should be between the resh with the pathic and the kof with the schwa. Okay? Because the other three letters left at the front still comprise one syllable because there's only one regular vowel. So there's only two syllables here. So you'd have only one line. Okay?
Going from the left to the right is between the kof and the resh, correct?
Between the, let me put it up here. So let's put it up here where you can see it. Okay? Let's go up here and make certain you can see them. All right? Okay? Divide it right there. Okay? It's here, nowhere else. All right? And John Strickland, take the next word. How did you divide ma'arav?
Between the resh and ayin.
You divided between the resh and ayin? Okay, it should not be. Should be only one line between the mem and the ayin. Because the hatif pathic is a half vowel and cannot form a syllable. Okay? All right. Let's go to the third word, pagat. Yes, Scott?
And we know that it goes with the second syllable because it's a compound schwa and it's vocal.
Yes, it's vocal. Compound schwa is always vocal, therefore it'll always initiate. It'll begin a syllable, never close one. Has to be a silent schwa to close. Okay? All right. Paga, Jeff?
Between the pay and the gimel.
Okay, between the pay and the gimel, right here. No other division possible. Okay, Scott Jackson. We go to the next word, magor.
The gimel and the mem.
Okay, right there, magor. All right, and then megura. Eric.
Between the dalet and the shuret. Or the resh, excuse me.
Between the resh and the shurik. Okay, and that's the only line. Because the schwa cannot form a separate syllable, so there's only two syllables there. Okay, how are you doing so far? I hear someone saying, all right, but. Okay, let's go to number 2. And we have here amert. Okay, James. James Lee.
Between the olive and the mem?
Okay, between the aleph and the mem, because the two schwas cannot form a syllable. So we have only two of them here that we can follow. All right, and with the next one, we have here diblaim. And David, how do we divide this one?
Between the bet and the lamed, and between the lamed and the yos.
This way? That's correct. Okay, work from the back. You have a hirik, you have a pathic, you have a schwa under this one because this is closing the syllable. And this is considered a short vowel, a short hirik. Okay, divlaim. Okay, let's go to the next one, would be kokavim. And Kelly, kokavim.
Between the ka and the bay is one line, and then prior to the ka.
All right, just like that. It's an easy one because you have three regular vowels being used. Okay? Kokavim. All right. And then we have, I'll go over here. We have shama. Notice the accent up here. Shamaru. All right, John Melkon.
After the shin and after the mem.
Okay, good. Anyone else?
I have a question.
Yes.
For under the name, you have a long vowel.
Yes, you
and It's
do.
accented.
Correct.
So normally that would cover a closed syllable?
No.
No?
Accented syllables are normally open. Unaccented syllables would be the ones to be normally found closed.
So it's irrespective of the length of the vowel under?
No, it's not irrespective of. It's that normally it will be long, a long vowel if it's accented. Now there are exceptions. If it is the last syllable of a word, like shamar, you can have a pathic in the closed syllable, but it's a closed syllable, not an open syllable. Okay? All right? Okay. The thing to remember here is the resh does not close this syllable here. Number one, a resh, if it's going to close a syllable, will have a schwa under it unless it's the very last letter in the word. Number two, the shurik is a vowel. And if possible, it will go with a consonant preceding it, unless it is the one beginning the word. Okay? All right. Let's go then to the third line. And let's start with shamayim. Let me get this erased. All right. Okay, shamayim. Tom, where did you divide it?
Between the shin and the mem,
Okay.
and then between the mem and the yod.
All right. Those are the syllables. Shamayim. Any question? All right. And then we'll go to the next word. And this is a little bit longer. We have year, ba, soon. And Kyle, we'll go with you. How do we divide it?
We'll divide it between the resh and bet, and between the bet and sang.
Sade.
Sade.
Okay, or tsun if you're trying to pronounce the syllable. All right, so you're going back from the left, you take the vowel, and you go, remember that sade, if it's going to close a syllable, like bats, it would have a schwa under it. But to begin a syllable, it has the vowel right here. This is the vowel that goes with it. And so this is separate, and this is a silent schwa. The dogish in the Baith helps to prove that because it's following a closed syllable. Yes?
Is there a way that can also double and you have it slammed?
No. Because if you double it, then you're going to have two schwas in a row, and that's never occurred. You don't do that because it has a commas under it.
If we slanted it, do we need to take it?
If you slammed it, take off. Just put a check mark. The Baith is doubled when it is the characteristic consonant of an intensive verb form. It's doubled when you have a compensation for it. But the way you know it isn't doubled here is the schwa ahead of it. It begins, right. The schwa is the silent one. All right. And then we have Elohim is our next one. Okay. Let's see. Kyle, you did that one, right? Okay, Chad, do Elohim, please.
Between the lamed and the hey.
Okay, make certain you keep the holum with the lamed. And that's the only line, because the hatif segol at the beginning is a half vowel and cannot form a syllable of its own. Okay? And then let's see, make certain I got all this correct here. Ishtamenu, okay. How do we divide this one, Kempis?
Between the scene and the tape.
Okay.
And then between the main and the noon.
Good. All right. That's the division. Tom.
How do you pronounce that?
Yistamenu. 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 Okay. Yes, Eric?
See if I got it straight. If a consonant were to close a syllable and the consonant didn't have a vowel under it, if it were to close a syllable, you would see a silent schwa under it.
If it closes a syllable, you'll see a silent schwa under it unless it's the last letter of the word.
And if there is no silent schwa, it's indicative that it's opening another syllable.
That it begins the next syllable, right? Correct. Okay, John?
Why is there not a line between the name just before the dash?
Here? Because you can't have two schwas in a row in the middle of a word that are both silent. The first one is silent, the second one is vocal. The vocal always begins a syllable, the silent always closes a syllable. Okay? All right? Anyone else? Okay, you're beginning to see where you can apply those rules about schwas now. Okay, now let's read through and pronounce E1. E1, okay? Let's read them and pronounce them. Repeat after me. Lamor.
Lamor.
Lishmor.
Lishmor.
Lemoah.
Lemoah.
Ruach.
Ruach.
Shamoah.
Shamoah.
Excuse me, my trifocals aren't working, and that should not be Shamoah, it should be Shamoah.
Shamoah.
Baruch.
Baruch.
Shomrim.
Shomrim.
Kittalu.
Kittalu.
Yishmeru.
Yishmeru.
Adamah.
Adamah.
Melech.
Melech.
Shamert.
Shamert.
Elohim.
Elohim.
Evor.
Evor.
Hekamim. Hekamim. Okay, the next one, Ekol. Katalt. Malkaken.
Malkaken.
Harbo.
Harbo.
Tok.
Tok.
Wamelech.
Wamelech.
Chelom.
Chelom.
Eshmor.
Eshmor.
Achrei.
Achrei.
And I need to get my bifocals working again. I need my magnifying glass, is what I need when I'm trying to read these. It's Echarei. Echarei. Okay, Echarei. Nifal.
Nifal.
Lifnei. Wesofer. Okay? And as we look at words and letters that look alike, the Beth and Kaf, let's pronounce all of these. Bazaz. Batach. Bara. Kokav. Ko. Kavod. Tov. Akal. Aver. Hekal. Yakol. Erev. Boker. Kisei. Kaved. And then the next page, when we're talking about Nun and Gimel, keeping them straight, Gadal. Gam. Ganav. Na. Naga. Nagaf. Nagash. Hagan. Gala. Ganim. Yin Nagesh. Gan. Nathan. Nathal. Gag. Nogesh. Gamal. Okay? Let's do those last two again. Nogesh. Gamal. Davar. Rosh. Dawid. Dor. Rav. Radaf. Room. Rasha. Dam. Derek. Daror. Eder. Daresh. Rodeh. Nirdam. And then Ridto. Now you have to watch those. You have to watch for the vocal and silent schwas. Okay, the Hey and Chayth. Chaya. Halak. Hain. Chazak. Choshek. Chata. Harag. Har. Nahar. Kohen. Lakach. Nachal. Nachash. Kahal. Kawa. Nacha. Nohaim. And then the Zayin and Wow we have to watch for. Booz. Bazaz. Zot. Wasus. Zahav. Zakar. Wazar. Yalad. Zakin. Washni. Uvana. We'adam. Uparo. Hazeh. Zera. Okay, the F, the Samic versus Mem Sophit. Sus. Yom. Kisei. Chalam. Chesed. Yasaf. Kesef. Nus. Yamim. Am. Chakam. Kum. Shem. Safar. Savav. Asaf. Osef. Adam. And then keeping the sheen and seen straight. All right? Dot over the right hand is sh. And the dot over the left hand is s. Okay? Sha'al. Shavar. Sham. Sim. Sarah. Saraf. Rasha. Shemesh. Now when you have two dots, the one on the left is the holum. The one on the left is the holum. The holum will never be way over on the right hand side on a letter that's beginning like this. So this is shofet. Asa. Nefesh. Nasa. Mashal. Basar. Nogesh. All right, good. Well, let's begin. There's a few more outside, but when they hear us singing, they will come in. Beth and Gimel, Daleth, Hey and Wow and Sai and Cheth and Teth and Yod and Kaf and Lamed, Mem Nun Samik, Ayin Pei and Sadi, Kof and Resh, Sin and Shin and Tal Havenu. Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Aleph, Beth, and Gimel, Daleth, Hey, and Wow, and Zayin. Chet, and Teth, and Yod, and Kaf, and Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei, and Sadi, Kof, and Resh, and Sin, and Shin, and Tau, Avenu, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Now, has that helped you learn the alphabet any? Do you feel like it's helped? Yes. Good. Now, the problem is, you've got to go from the song and the sound to the writing, correct? And for the exam that we're going to have, you need to make certain, whoops, go back to this. You need to make certain that you know the letters and their names, be able to write them. Now, when I ask you to write them, you don't have to write them in transliterated form with all of the markings over the vowels. I want you to learn the simple ones, like what I have up here. The Aleph. Now, even though we say no transliteration, I do want you to have that reverse apostrophe before the A. Always get a habit of always putting that reverse apostrophe there when you have the Aleph, and have the opposite when you have the ayin. So you will spell it with that and A-L-E-P-H. Whether it's capitalized or not doesn't really make any difference. Beit, Gimel. Notice that there's none of the diacritics here over it to show you these things. It's simple spelling, okay? So you just remove the diacritical markings. Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Wow, and you have to keep in mind that some pronounce this as Vav, Zayin, Chet, and notice that I don't have a dot under the Hey on this because it's not necessary in the simplified, because Hey is not spelled this way with a T on the end, T-H on the end. Tate, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin. Notice that reverse there, the way that apostrophe is reversed on it there. And then you have the Pei, the Tzade with the TS sound, the Kof, notice it's a Q, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, and Tau, sometimes given as Tav. So make certain you can write out both the letters and the names. Letters and names. Jeff?
Does it matter if we put sheen before seen when we're writing them out?
No, it's not going to matter if you put Shin and Sin in the opposite order. Just as long as you have them together and they're before the Tau and they're after the Resh.
And you want the dagishes in?
The dagishes do not matter for the alphabet. They do not matter for the alphabet. John?
So you want the letter, the name in English, and you want the transliteration?
I do not want transliteration. I do not want transliteration. No. Now, transliterated name, I do not want. The value, yes, I do. Okay? So let's get that straight. Okay? Yes, I thought you were talking about transliterated name. No. Okay, the value of it, yes. The Aleph, you should know that it is this. The Beth, you should know that it is this and or this. The Gimel, you should know that it is this and or this. The Daleth, you should know that it is this and or this. And of course, this form here is what it is without the dagish. This is with the dagish. This is with the dagish. This is without the dagish. This is with the dagish. This is without the dagish. So you have, if you were to write these side by side, this is the way it goes here. Okay? So I do want you to know those. This, like this one, this is this, and this is this. Okay? And if you have this, is this one, and this one is this one. Okay? Pardon? No, when I ask you to write the alphabet, I just want you to go through and write the alphabet. Aleph, Beth, Gimel, Daleth, Hey, Wow, and Zayin, Chet, Teth, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei, Tzadi, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tau. That's all I want you to do. If I ask you to write the alphabet, I want the alphabet written in order from right to left. All right? Okay? Chad?
Why do the forms of Gimel and Pei without the dagish have the, in the transliteration, you have the line above the letter, and the other big capital letters have it below the letter?
Because for G and P, you have parts of the letter below that get confusing. And so you put them above where it's cleaner. Okay? All right? It's the only reason, just to be clean with it, because of descending parts of the English letters. Okay? All right? And then you may be asked to give the transliteration of various ones. And so if you're asked to give the transliteration, let's say you're asked to transliterate this, then you would do it this way. Okay? So you learn the transliterations for the purpose of transliterating words or individual letters that might be assigned. And the thing you need to do is go through and look at the value of each letter and each vowel as you're looking at it. Now, there are some words that I could trick you with, but we're not going to do it at this stage. And that's words that we're beginning to know. And it's not to a stage where I'm going to give it to you and try to make you do it. But if I were to give you this word, we know only by means of the memorization of vocabulary and knowing this word that it's hokmah. And therefore we know that that comets here is not a true comets, it is a comets hatuf. And by the way, when we do the names of the vowels as well, use the simple form. Don't put all the transliteration markings in. Just use the simple form of writing them. For example, the PATHACH is PATHACH. Okay, and the Segol is Segol. Don't try to put all the markings in and change it around and everything else. Just put the simple form of spelling for the vowel names. But as you're looking at this word, I'm not going to ask you to do a transliteration of this word because that's something that will come later as you become more familiar with such words. That you'll know that this is a comets hatuf, and you'll know then that this word is going to be divided this way because you know how it's pronounced, not because you follow rules of determining syllabification. Because you know it's spelled hok or pronounced hokmah, then you know it's a comets hatuf, which is a closed, unaccented syllable, and so you're going to close it with that schwa, a silent schwa. But it's because you know the form before you go into it. And so there are things like that that you can only know if you know the form. And I'm not going to take things like that at this stage and put them on the exam. On the exam will be only things that you definitely ought to know. There won't be the trick questions here. Okay? Questions? Jeff?
Comets hatuf, in the book it had a used example sod, so it still sound almost the same, but used an O.
It's the O like God. God. Not Father, but God. God is not pronounced the same as Father. It's not God. It's God. Okay, there's a slight difference. Okay? And of course it depends on what part of the country you're from too. If you're from Minnesota, it comes out Gad almost. It's so close to Gad, it's unbelievable. All right? Okay. So do you understand what I want by knowing the alphabet? You will be asked, this is a guarantee on this exam, you will definitely be asked to write the Hebrew alphabet out in order. Okay? In Hebrew. And when you do that, that's all you do. Don't do anything else. And whether you put a dogish in the Bagad Kafath letters or not doesn't make a bit of difference for that. All right? Because I'm looking for you to know the letter, know the form, and know the order.
No final forms after, right?
Nor final forms. There'll be no final forms in knowing the alphabet. Okay? The final forms were not in the alphabet song. All right? So just remember, when I ask for the alphabet, I'm asking for those that are in the alphabet songs. You can sit there and sing it to yourself. Don't sing it aloud, though. All right? You have to be silent. Okay? All right, so those are the letters. And as far as words and reading them, you will have vocabulary on the quiz from the first 2 vocabulary quizzes. The vocabulary from the first 2 quizzes, which is the vocabulary at the end of chapters 2 and 3 only, are fair game for this exam. Now, the special letters that we talked about, make certain that you can answer the question, which letters are gutturals? Which letters are gutturals? And if I ask the question that way, you even include the sometimes guttural. There are 5 of them. You have the aleph, the hey, the cheth, the ayin, and the resh. And resh is sometimes. But if I ask for the gutturals, I want all 5 listed. And then keep in mind that you have the issue of weak gutturals and strong gutturals. The weak gutturals are ayin and aleph. They're weak because they are normally silent. The hey and cheth, because they're normally consonantal. They have a consonantal sound to them, even though the hey is somewhat weaker than the cheth. And the resh also is consonantal, but it's not normally considered in the weak versus the strong gutturals. Remember the 3 rules of the gutturals. You can be guaranteed this will be asked. What are the 3 rules governing the gutturals? They refuse doubling. They refuse the doubling dogish. They prefer A-class vowels, and they prefer compound schwa. They prefer A-class vowels and prefer compound schwa. Those 3 rules are definitely going to be asked. As certain as you're going to be asked to write out the alphabet, you'll be asked for these 3 rules. Okay? Don't forget that we have silent letters and we have vowel letters. And we have full letter vowels and we have labials. And those are all fair game for the exam. Now, the exam is not going to take more than a half hour of time. So it's going to be brief, it's going to be short. And you're going to have to keep moving to get through it. You got to have it to where you can write out that alphabet quickly so that you don't get bogged down. And then go through these things. You should know which letters are the labials. What are the vowel letters? The hirik yod, the tsere yod, the kametz hey, the holam wow, and the shurik. And so as you're going through these, keep these in mind. The bagad kafaf letters are another group that you should know. You should know these 6 letters. And I will probably try to disguise that when I ask it by saying, what letters take dagesh lene, or the hardening dagesh, rather than giving you bagad kafaf, because that's a giveaway. All right? Because that's the memnomic device, bagad kafaf. Dagesh lene is the hardening dagesh. Dagesh forte is the doubling dagesh. And that you should remember. When we deal with the vowels, the transliteration, you should know the transliteration for each vowel. And you'll need to know that for transliterating words that I may give you and ask you to transliterate. Remember that this circumflex over the A represents a kametz hey. So if you have that at the end of a word, that's where you put it. And the segol is just the brev over the E, and the tsere is the macron. The line is the macron. The little cup-like thing, that's the brev. And the upside down one over that, like the kametz hey, that's called the circumflex. And the circumflex over the tsere yod. The hirik is just written as it is. The hirik yod has a circumflex because it's a full letter vowel. The kibbutz written as it is without any other marking. The shurik with a circumflex. The holam with a macron. The holam wow with the circumflex. The kametz hatuf is an O with the brev. It's closed, unaccented syllable. You might be asked the rule for the kametz hatuf. And the rule is the kametz hatuf occurs only in closed, unaccented syllables. That's the rule of kametz hatuf. The schwa has the elevated superscript type of E. And the Hatif PATHACH is a superscript A. The Hatif Segol is superscript I. And the Hatif Comets, a superscript O, because it's related to Comets Hatuf. And these names are Hatif PATHACH, Hatif Segol, Hatif Comets. Notice the simplified spelling. The simplified spelling. And by the way, you don't have to capitalize the H on Hatif. All right? It doesn't matter whether you capitalize or not, but you don't need to. All right? The vocal schwa, remember we had all these rules governing the vocal schwa. Review your rules in the textbook for vocal and silent schwa, because there will be at least 2 or 3 questions about vocal and silent schwas. So go back and review those rules for both the vocal and the silent schwa. They're all there in your textbook. Look them over carefully. Scott?
Regarding the vowels, will we need to know the class that they were in?
No. I will not be asking any questions about class of vowel.
Or the sound?
The only sound you give is the transliteration. You won't give like as in father. Okay? Okay, remember the PATHACH furtive occurs only under final gutturals. Remember that the dot in the bosom of the final hay is called mapik. M-A-P-P-I-Q. M-A-P-P-I-Q. Mapik. Okay?
Is that the only place that it occurs?
That's the only place it occurs. The only place mapik occurs is in the bosom of a final hay. Yes, David.
About what are the vowels on the phonetic chart on page 39?
On which page?
39.
39. All right. That's all turned there so we see that and can look at it. Okay, which one are you talking about?
So in the tone long column?
In the tone long column, yes.
In the A class, there's a Segal.
Yes.
So
That is when you have, actually, that occurs when you have a segol hey at the end of a word. Okay? Such as in, let's see, as in chauffeur. That's actually considered then a tone-long vowel. It's not a short vowel, and it's together with a vowel letter, a silent hey, and therefore this is transliterated with a macron over the E. That's not something you're going to be asked about. Yes, Eric?
Speaking of, you just mentioned vowel letters. Should we know the vowel letters?
You should know the vowel letters, right. You should know them. You should know that the vowel letters include the yod, the wow, and the hey. And you should know that the vowel letters, the full vowels are hirik yod, sari yod, holam wow, shurik, and comets hey. Full letter vowels. Okay? If I should place Zephaniah 3:8 on the exam and ask you to identify various letters by means of circles, boxes, whatever, can you do so? And that is, for example, I would ask a question like, please circle all Bagad Kafath letters in Zephaniah 3:8. Okay? And please put boxes around all final forms of letters in Zephaniah 3:8. You know, could you do that? And remember, if I ask a question like Bagad Kafath letters, you have to circle all of them whether or not they have a dogish in them. Because even if they don't have a dogish, they're still Bagad Kafath, and with the dogish, they're still Bagad Kafath. They're still the same letter, just different pronunciations of the same letter. All right? So be prepared for that kind of situation where you'll have to pick them out and circle or put boxes around. Okay? Everyone understand what I'm saying there? There may be any number of things I might do. Yes?
Do we have to know the number of the letter?
No. I'm not going to ask you to repeat the exercise you did before of putting numbers over the letters, and that's not going to be in there. Correct. Jeff?
A wow is not a wow if it's a holum or shurik.
A wow is not a wow if it's a holum wow or it's a shurik. Those are not consonants, those are vowels. Okay? Good. Scott?
The number transliteration, number L being 1, being 2.
You will not be asked that. You will not be asked that. Okay? All right. Let's go to another one here. Let's talk a little bit about the dagesh. Remember, the dagesh lani occurs in the bagad kafaf letters. It is known as a hardening dagesh. It is used when the letter begins a syllable and does not follow a vowel. And remember, we learned there were a number of exceptions to that. And as we looked at those exceptions, we found out that in a situation where you have a pausal form, an accent, that type of thing is not going to be on your exam because we haven't gotten to the accents yet. All right? This is information that is given to you in advance. You'll remember. We'll repeat it again when we get to the second half of that information. And only when we've learned both halves will we put it together and will it become part of a quiz. Okay? So that exception is not going to be involved. In fact, I'm not going to deal with any of the exceptions on this exam. The strong dagesh or dagesh forte can occur in all Hebrew letters except gutturals. That's a good question to ask on the exam. It doubles the letter in two situations: in compensation for a letter that has been elided or disappeared, and it also is utilized in some intensive forms of the verb. Okay, as we saw in these. Now the rafeh. The rafeh is the line that is put over a syllable that has a schwa in it in order to indicate that the dagesh forte has been omitted and the schwa remains vocal. Okay, so instead of bik kashu here, bik kashu sounds the same, but instead of writing the dagesh in the kof, the rafeh is over the top. So the rafeh can represent the omission of a dagesh forte, purely for simplifying pronunciation. Syllabification. The summary of rules for syllabification. You will have a number of words you'll be asked to divide into syllables on the final exam. There will not be a large number, be something like 3 words for you to divide. Only full vowels can form syllables. Only full vowels, only regular vowels, normal vowels, remember. Half vowels cannot form syllables. Start at the end of the word. Those are your 3 rules. Make certain you observe them carefully. Start at the end of the word to divide. Only full vowels can form syllables. Half vowels cannot form syllables. Now it's time for any question you have in these first 4 chapters before we have the exam. Any questions? Scott?
Regarding the schwas and their effect on syllabification, we need to be aware of how that all works, silent breaking and...
You have to understand the rules for vocal and silent schwas, and you have to understand that to do your syllabification properly. And you can be guaranteed that at least one or more of the examples I give you to create syllables from is going to affect or is going to be affected by rules for silent and vocal schwas. Okay, good question. Other questions? All right, let's go on then. Let's get a brief start here, a jump start on chapter 5 on accents. Accentuation in Hebrew. This is a chapter you are to read between now and Thursday, because after the exam we're going to go over that chapter in more detail. We're going to go over a lot of examples. We're going to talk about how accents work. Today I just want to give you a brief introduction to them so that you have a little bit better understanding of what you're reading as you read, and you'll know the pronunciation of these accents as well. First of all, Accents are utilized in order to preserve proper reading of the text. The Masoretes are the ones who inserted the accents starting about 500 AD up until about 1000 AD. And they did that, number one, to preserve a proper reading of the text. Secondly, the accents serve to indicate the syllable to be stressed. If you're going to properly pronounce it, you have to know where the emphasis or where the stress or the accent is to be placed. And it represents cantillation of the text. The Jews would sing or chant the text. And so these act as cantillation markers to tell them when to draw out a sound, when to give it a certain tone quality. It tells them basically how to sing the text. And there are entire books on that to explain how that ought to be done. Fourth, they are used to indicate the logical divisions of the verse. Now notice what that is, logical divisions of the verse. That's very important for you to remember. Accents are exegetically significant and translationally significant. This morning I'm turning back translations to the third semester Hebrew on Genesis chapter 3 verses 8 through 16. And one of the problems that some of the students had there was ignoring accents, and it affected their translation, to where their translation then was not saying the same thing as the text. Accents divide the text into logical sections. You have to remember that. They're logical divisions of the verse. And they are exegetically significant. If you miss the accent, don't understand it, you can end up with a totally different interpretation of the text. And that's part of the reason why the Masoretes put these accents in, is to preserve not only the proper reading to where it's pronounced and sung and chanted correctly, but so that it is the correct meaning that is also conveyed. That the pauses are in the right place to have the right logical connection between words, especially in situations where it could be somewhat ambiguous. Okay? Most Hebrew words are accented on the last syllable. We call that milrah. Milrah. For example, shamer is accented on the last syllable. So we call that milrah. Some Hebrew words are accented on the next to the last syllable, and we call that millel. Like melech. Melech. Okay, that's the next to the last syllable. And so it is called millel. So we have milrah, millel. We have accented on the last syllable, accent on the next to the last. When it's accented on the next to last, there will be an accent to show you that it is accented on the next to last. It's not left to you to guess. It's always indicated. It's always indicated. Now, it may not be the accent that's used up here, that little caret sign there. That's not always what you'll see. There will be other accents utilized, but there will be a marking. There will be an accent. How important are accents? Well, let's take the example of Isaiah chapter 40, verse 3, that's quoted in Mark chapter 1, verse 3. A voice calling. A voice calling. Notice there are two dots above the resh. That is a major disjunctive accent called zakef katon. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Then it goes on to say, Bamidbar, and then notice there's an accent over the bait, the second bait in Bamidbar, in the wilderness, and that's called zakef gadol. But it has a lesser value than zakef katon. And therefore it doesn't break there. And then you have Panu Derek Yahweh. And so you have a voice calling, in the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Okay? In the Greek, phone baontas ente eremo. A voice calling in the wilderness. And then indicating a colon. That is wrong. That is wrong. That punctuation is added by modern editors. It was not in the original Greek manuscripts, and it is in error. It is in error. if you take out the modern editor's punctuation in the Greek New Testament, the Greek grammar says that you can go ahead with this and take out the capital epsilon, because that's also the editor's, because you don't have capitals in a Greek manuscript. All Greek manuscripts are either all minuscule, meaning all lowercase letters, or all majuscule, all uppercase letters. There's no such thing as mixed upper and lowercase in authentic Greek manuscripts. And so this then, ente eremo, goes with hetoimasate. And we know that because of the accentuation of Isaiah 40 verse 3. And so the debate over Mark 1:3 is solved by the Hebrew. And when we understand the Greek, we see the Greek is ambiguous. And therefore, editors, modern editors, have chosen one way or the other. But it's solved by what Isaiah has in the Old Testament. Okay? Hebrew accents, disjunctive accents and conjunctive accents. Two kinds of accents, disjunctive, conjunctive. Disjunctive means it divides, it makes a break. Conjunctive means it joins, it keeps together. Let's first talk about disjunctive accents. The major disjunctive accent in a verse is called the athanach. It is that upside down V next to a vowel under a word. So be'otzrotau here, the Comets has that upside down V beside it. That is the athanach. The athanach marks the middle of a verse logically, not mathematically. You can count syllables, you can count words, it'll never come in that fashion. Because you can have 18 words in a sentence and the athanach can occur on the second word. All right? The athanach marks the logical midpoint of the verse. It marks the logical major break in a verse. You never, ever, ever, ever translate or interpret across the athanach. Where the athanach comes, that's where the break comes. And you must stop in pronouncing it. You must stop in thinking it. You must stop in the interpretation of it. The athanach is the major logical break or pause within a verse. The sigolta is another disjunctive accent. The sigolta is like an upside down sigol placed above a word. The sigolta is fascinating because it normally introduces curses and things that are stated negatively. Usually they are direct quotes, and usually they are negative, and most of them are negative, and curses. Zakef katon, the two dots above, are the quarter markers. So that if you're going through a verse, and remember you're reading Hebrew from right to left, and at the end of a verse you have these two little diamonds that are called sof pasuk. Sof pasuk closes a verse. Now, where the athanach is the middle of the verse. Where the zakef katon is, marks the quarter points. This is the half point, this is a quarter point, and this is a quarter point. All right? So the zakef katon divides the halves into further halves. Okay? Zakef katon. Yes, Robin.
Flip it over zakef katon then?
No, not normally. Not normally. Kelly?
You're saying with the athanach that you stop pronouncing and such? So would that mean that on the word that's the example up there, you would pronounce what's in the white as one word,
No.
stop, and then
No.
pronounce the other part?
No, because notice the athanach belongs to the last syllable. So you finish pronouncing the whole thing. You finish the word stays together, but you don't go to the next word after that. Okay? You pause when you finish that word. Go ahead, Kelly.
And that's finishing a thought as well?
Yes, it's finishing a thought as well.
Like the idea is, okay, that's a statement and a
Yeah.
thought.
It's like a semicolon or a period.
Okay, wow.
Okay? Scott?
That kind of answers my question. So it's more like punctuation than a verse marking that we would have. It wouldn't be like verse 3.
No,
It's actually punctuation.
there's punctuation within a verse.
But the Masoretes are the ones that added it.
Yes, they are. Correct. John?
The Zakev,
Zakev Katon.
Zakev Katon, that divides it into quarters. Does it divide it logically or does it?
Logically. All accents are logical markers. I can't emphasize enough. They're not mathematical. They're logical. Okay? Scott?
Kind of follow up Kelly's question then with the Zakev Katan, is that breaking on the last syllable of that word?
You pronounce the whole word.
Right?
You never divide the words. You have to pronounce the whole word. And this is on the last syllable. Kelau.